man inside the gutter. Knock off when you open your mouth. Discrimination in entertainment, and you're talking about one Guyana. When the Ministry of Culture keep the big shows, one set of girls and banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how we evil set up. The people fed up. Every picture you take and promise you make, everything you do is about clouds. Then you come into me for I shake your hand, there's nothing to smile about. Corruption inside every sector, but when it comes to them, they send you. Try investigate efficiency, right? Go talk to Barrett and Sue, cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how we evil set up. The people fed up. I done fed up on the dirty water, low pressure, want scream and tell somebody. Imagine 1500 US, and they're telling me super salary. I done fed up on the unemployment, racism and the lie, they say one Guyana. Cause when you look with the oil money going, circulate with one set of banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how we evil set up. The people fed up.
You could probably, on the maritime area, give Venezuela a channel out to the sea.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if cost of living double, I don't know what happened. A pound of sugar is $300 already. Flour, everything gone up. Everything just raising. You gotta get about $40,000 for buy good ration. You gotta get 3 man now. A weekend man, a monthly man, and a fortnight man.
A pleasant good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to Over to You. Welcome to Over to You, a show by the people for the people. Welcome, Guyanese. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to those watching in North America, those watching in the Caribbean, the continent of Africa, Europe. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the program. How are you guys doing today? I hope everybody's doing well. Please, 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 this evening, share the link. Share the link. This was a very eventful week, and we have quite a few things to discuss this evening. So please, take your time and execute your little administrative duty to your show. This show is your show. You guys know that. I don't even have to repeat it. All right, please share the link out. Share the link out, and welcome to the program. I hope everyone had a blessed weekend. A blessed week. I sure did. And I hope it was the same for you guys. Welcome to the program. Lots to talk about, lots to talk about, lots to talk about. So I know many of you would have seen how the opposition would have stepped into the streets, and we were waiting for that for quite some time. Before I even get into any details on that, I must say that the strategic plan was one of excellence. The execution of the protest was 100% on point. I thought that I saw a collection of all the MPs there. You know, you saw that everyone was on the same page. That's a very, very, very good sight. It's an excellent start. This is only a start. One protest is not going to bring about change. It has to be consistent, okay? It has to be rapid fire, okay? Very consistent. The next step, we can take that protest to GCOM. That would be an excellent move. But hey, look, it's a start. You know, and what was excellent is that everybody I would have heard went in and signed in and everything. So the install regime thought that, you know, the opposition would have just sit there and listen to them make their pitch for 2025. You know, but the opposition did an excellent job. They thought better of it and they boycotted. They walked out, which is correct. They do not need to sit down and listen to garbage that they would have already heard before. So excellent move. Kudos to the entire opposition. Now, coming out of that parliamentary sitting, you know, was some interesting pitches. Some real interesting pitches for 2025, because that is what that was all about. That is what it was all about. The PPP making their pitch to tell the Guyanese people, hey, keep us in power. This is what we will do for you. But I hope that my Guyanese brothers and sisters, the voters in Guyana, would have gotten a bit wiser. Because especially on social media, we have a whole lot of programs on social media that will tell the people otherwise when it comes to voting for the PPPC. So my brothers and sisters, don't get carried away. Okay? I'm not even going to go deep into numbers, but I can say this. A $200,000 cash grant, which equates to approximately 1,000 US, is not nearly enough for one household. Okay? I think that was the biggest thing that came out of this sitting as far as the PPP goes. And we have to remember, let's keep in mind here that we started extracting oil in 2020. We are now coming to the end of 2024. And all you can give to the people of Guyana, all you can offer to them is $200,000 per a household. Not good enough. Not good enough. And with all due respect, the study that Professor Dr. Clive Thomas, the Honorable Dr. Clive Thomas would have done was done in 2018. We are extracting oil now and receiving 7.9 million US per day. And that number could change. It all depends on supply and demand. At one time, I think it was year before last, oil was in high demand. So people were paying more for oil. And I think we had gotten a surplus of about, based on what Brother Elson Lowe would have said, about 60 million US dollars. That's a surplus right there. That's money that was not expected that came in. Okay? When you have money like that, you put it on the side for emergencies, right? You could throw it into what in business you would call it your retained earnings, and you have it there. That money could have addressed the issue with our teachers, who I feel was disrespected big time. Because when the teachers was protesting and demanding a raise of approximately 30%, 25%, whatever it may have been, the PPP was crying out that there is no fiscal space to accommodate such a raise. But all of a sudden, how it is that we have enough fiscal space to accommodate $200,000 per household? It's quite shocking and interesting, right? And it just shows you where education falls when it comes to the PPPC. That being said, you know, we have to come to this, and some measure of change, you know, needs to come for the people of Guyana, because $200,000 is not enough, you know. And when you're going to walk to the polls in 2025, you need to think. You need to think, and you need to think deeply what is happening here. 5 years of oil extraction, $200,000. And let's also keep in mind that there are Guyanese still holding those pink slips, okay, from the COVID cash grant. All right? We have brothers and sisters that are still holding those slips from the COVID cash grant. They need to receive their money also. And money should be allocated to them, allocated for that purpose. Why I say that? Because you can't give some and don't give others. Okay? You cannot give some and don't give others. And you see, when a government is undemocratic, you see a lot of weaknesses. Now, if you're going to give $200,000 per household, all right, that money is going to go to the head of the household. You could have also said that every other working individual in that household will be given 100,000, 75,000, something, right? I know you guys think that people should get some measure of incentive for working, right? We have young 21, 22-year-olds that's working and still living in their parents' home. Now, the parent get to receive that $200,000 because the parent is the head of the household. That young person, that young Guyanese who is out there doing the right thing and working should have received some type of compensation from this cash grant. How do you encourage these people? Right? How do you get them on board if you don't give them incentive to continue doing that is right? So these are the type of things that happen when a government, okay, is undemocratic. And the other side does not get a say in how decisions are made. It's one-sided decisions. All right. The next thing I think they would have spoken on is GPL. A 50% discount on GP. Well, look, 50%, you should have just made that a 70% discount because GPL service is horrible. And while they were addressing GPL, they should have simultaneously addressed GWI, which is in the same situation. Horrible service. Give Guyanese a break on those bills. Because right now they're paying those bills for nothing. Okay? The service is horrible. It's not up to standards. Giving them 50% off on GPL, yes, it's a move, but it's a move that should have been done a long time ago. You put this in place because you want the people of Guyana to fall for your pitch and re-elect you back into office. I'm going to say this to the people. A new government can do much more for you. Guyana needs a new government. Guyana needs a coalition government. Okay? Guyana doesn't need a government that is undemocratic, that makes decisions on their own. The ruling party or the party with the most seats, a one-seat majority, making all the decisions on their own and ignoring their counterparts on the other side of the aisle who has a lot to offer. Because, of course, we see that they use the study of Dr. Clive Thomas. That is what they use. And the right thing that the PPPC should have done, knowing that they would have used Dr. Clive Thomas's study, is to invite Dr. Clive Thomas to Parliament and acknowledge, you understand, that they were going, this cash grant is based on his study. That would have been the right thing to do. Instead of that, they went solo. $200,000 cash grant offered to the people of Guyana. Let's remember this and let's keep in mind. The PPP is not a party that does feasibility studies, that like doing feasibility studies. They don't like doing studies. Okay? They like to lean on their own understanding or their own quote-unquote wisdom, which has not worked for the Guyanese people. The next thing that would have come out of that parliamentary sitting, free education at the university level. What does free education equal to? Just tuition or tuition and all associated fees? They need to give some more context to that, because I would like to see free education, general, everything. Every single thing is free. Okay? And also, let's make that retroactive, that you're not looking at people of a certain age for university. Okay, you're not being biased, because you have to remember that when you remove university from being free, a lot of Guyanese would have missed the plane on that, because they just didn't have the necessary finances to put themselves through university. People didn't have the finances that could have put their children through university, and there was a lot of eligible young people at that time. So you all need to go retroactive, and you guys need to tell those people, you know, it's better late than never. The option is still on the table for them to go back to university. That should be done if we want to be fair across the board. I would have heard that that first vice president, quote unquote, Barry Jagdeo, would have said that he's very concerned with the cost of university and the new programs that are in place. How do you expect Guyana to keep up with the rest of the world? Of course, there is new programs in place. There's a lot that is happening on the technology front. What do you think? We got to have computer science. You know, you have to have courses in AI. You're going to have some niche courses that you have not seen before. Those courses has to be supported also if Guyana is to move forward. There should also be a course in oil and gas, so that we can have our own oil and gas exports on the ground in Guyana. PPP, you guys will be educated this afternoon. You will be. You don't just come out and just say these things. You have to give context. The Guyanese people want context. Our standards are now rising. We're not accepting mediocre speeches. We want detail, and we want supporting detail. Now, when we talk about this $200,000 cash grant for every household, you have not broken down where this money is going to come from. What are you guys going to do? Go to the Natural Resource Fund again? Because we are borrowing like crazy against future oil. What if there's a big uptick in alternative energy and the price of oil crashes? What's going to happen to Guyana? We are not thinking on our feet here. We are just going after money because the money is there, because we can go there and get loans against our oil patrimony. Right? We've got to pivot. We've got to make some changes. We've got to make some changes. And this evening, I'm not going to just challenge the PPPC. I'm also going to challenge the opposition. Because all of us, myself and everyone on this show, can agree that we have a corruption problem in Guyana. Right? And we've gotten on, I've heard many programs, I've listened to many programs. I myself would have been on many programs. And we have talked about corruption. Even one of the kingpins of corruption, Barry Jagdeo, would have mentioned on one of his press conferences that he intends to eradicate corruption. Barry Jagdeo, you know when corruption is going to be eradicated? When you finally wake up one day and decide, oh my God, I got enough money. That's the day that corruption is going to be eradicated. Until then, we just can't come to the table and talk about it. We got to bring solutions. Right? We got to bring solutions. And this is my question to both sides of government. Are you guys willing to get on the floor of Parliament and sign a bill to have all parliamentarians and high-level government officials comprehensively audited every 2 years to match their income against their assets? And it must be retroactive. That's my question. On the PPP side, they don't have no way of contacting me. They can answer via Barry Jagdeo's press conference next week. And on the opposition side, the Honorable Aubrey C. Norton, the Honorable David Hines, Dr. David Hines, and the Honorable Comrade Nigel Hughes, all of them know how to contact me. That's a question on behalf of the Guyanese people. Because this has to stop. This has to stop. The Guyanese people are living at a massive disadvantage. They say you mustn't put the carriage before the horse. But I'm going to attempt to do so this afternoon. If the opposition would not be willing to sign such a bill, it would be troubling to me. It would be extremely troubling to me, because the picture that it's going to paint to me is that birds of a feather flock together. Whenever you guys in Guyana, my people, my brothers, my sisters that I love, go to the poll, you don't go and vote for people who are coming in your best interest to manage your country. You're going and vote for the next set of millionaires/billionaires in Guyana. And when I talk about comprehensively audit, this trickles down to all high-level individuals within the Guyana Defense Force and the Guyana Police Force. All ambassadors, they must all be comprehensively audited. If we're going to play this game, let's play it fair. I know Barry Jagdeo right now, what must he probably in your pants right now? Because you would never sign something like that. You guys would never sign something like that because you guys never intended to be fair to the Guyanese people. Never. And it's atrocious watching you guys and watching how you operate. You don't come together as a team, opposition and leading party, and make no decisions pertinent to Guyana. It's sheer separation. It's sheer fighting all the time. While you guys are fighting, our oil is being extracted. You guys can't even account for how many barrels is being extracted per day. That's to show how reckless you guys have been with the oil resource that belongs to the Guyanese people. Indeed, reckless. Now, you guys have put a lot of acts in place, right? You've put a lot of acts in place, right? We have a lot of acts that you guys put in place. And one of the latest one, and this one was done by the coalition, was the Cybercrime Act that the ERC, I feel, is taking big advantage of when it comes to individuals who speak out against this installed dictatorial regime. Now, you guys would have written to a good friend of mine, Mr. Colin Barnwell, over this week. ERC would have written Colin. I'm going to sit here on this program tonight and I'm going to ask you guys to desist from doing that. Desist from doing that. If you're going to write, you need to write everybody. If you're going to write, you need to write everybody. Be fair. Be fair, because if you ask me, my opinion, I would say that you guys should have been decommissioned a long time ago. There's no need for no ERC. You guys are not serving any purpose. When that Indian man that was there standing with one of your ministers, I think it was Indar, you were standing with, came out and said all the things that he said about Melissa Atwell, aka Melly Mel. You guys didn't write him. You didn't. She should die and all this kind of thing. You guys didn't write him. When that guy come on his show, the guy with a funny ear that looked like the crazy guy, man, that the guy lash open his face the other day. I know his name, but I'm not going to call his name on my program. Doesn't deserve to be called. When he gets on his program and he called Guyanese hungry belly and all these kind of things, have you guys written to him? When Barry Jagdeo called the Honorable Catherine Hughes, MP, Member of Parliament, a low life, did you guys write to him? When Charles Ramson obliterated Mr. Ivor Tom, embarrassed him, did you guys write to Charles Ramson? No. So stop it. Leave Colin Barnwell alone. Stop it. He has a right to his opinion, just like everybody else. Stop. Don't pick and choose. Cut the nonsense out. You guys are powerless. Stay powerless. Sit in your seats. Take a nap during the day. You guys are ineffective. Just like GCOM. My brother Colin, there's no need to respond to them. Leave them hanging there. I've always thought that the ERC was garbage. Always did. Because they were biased in nature. And as long as you're biased in nature, in my book, you're garbage. Look, this young man from Tushin, Joel Dotson, and this lady next door to him, Miss Passad. They invited that young man into the ERC to discuss the matter that the woman was complaining about with his wash bay. Every guy needs to have a right. Joel Dotson owns his little piece of land. He has a right to have his wash bay right where he lives. In Tushin. Tushin does not belong to one ethnic group. Okay? Guyana belongs to everybody. Let me be clear. Guyana belongs to everybody. Every citizen of Guyana have a right to a piece of land. And if Brother Joel's wash bay is worrying Miss Passad, then she need to move out. Move out. because he ain't moving. He's not moving to please who? You. Because you can't stand getting up in the morning and looking through your window and seeing a young Guyanese of African descent progressing and doing well in his life. He didn't ask the PPP for a job. He created one for himself. If you sit down and wait for a PPP job, you'll wait a long time. He created one for himself. Coming back to when the ERC invited this young man in. They are so sloppy. They said, oh, Miss Prasad was there earlier. And she said that she wanted to end the story. There should be signed documentation by both individuals that they want to end the story. The story is done and signed off by some high-level official from the ERC. So when that young man spoke to me, I asked him if he had any documentation, because documentation is important. Ms. Prasad went as far as having a lawyer serve Joel papers. So I told him to check in on those papers and make sure that the coast is clear. And that he doesn't get calling that, oh, he's, there's warrants against him or anything like that. Because he didn't answer a court date or something like that. We got to stop this thing in Guyana. Let's go back to when our Indian brothers and sisters arrived on the land of Guyana. They arrived finding an emancipated people. When you emancipate yourself, you're not looking to be put back into slavery by somebody else. Or looking for somebody else to look at you and say that, oh, as a Guyanese of African descent, somebody else looking at you and saying, oh, you are beneath me. No, that ain't happening again. That ain't happening again. That's the worst tragedy in the history of mankind. The Holocaust was recorded. The tragedy of slavery was never really recorded. I don't want to go there this afternoon. So everybody needs to back up. Back up a bit. Don't get excited. Moving forward, we talk about the Cybercrime Act. To those same individuals that I would have mentioned, those same government officials that I would have mentioned from both the PPPC and the opposition side, we need to have a Transparency Act put into place in Guyana. Guyana lacks transparency badly. Just like how you guys signed on quickly for a Cybercrime Act. We need a Transparency Act. Because information is not readily available to Guyanese. We need a website that makes information readily available to Guyanese. Okay? We need a proper Ministry of Public Information that is run by credible people who is willing to give information when the pertinent questions are asked. No one should be exempt. Once it's not personal information or information that, if exposed, could put the security of Guyana at risk, then it should be readily available to the citizens of Guyana. We don't have that. I think the person who's responsible right now for information, I think that might be Charles Ramson's father. I don't know why that position is in place. Because from knowledge that I would have received, that man doesn't answer anybody. He does not answer anyone. And you see, these are the type of problems that we have in Guyana. Right? Those two things that I would have mentioned, the audit and the Transparency Act that I would like to see put in place, it's a start to changing a lot. Right? But the only way those measures would go into place is if we have honest politicians in Guyana. Let me be frank in saying this as a public accountant. Many of these individuals in government can become millionaires anyway. Okay? Whether they steal or whether they don't steal. It's nice to become a millionaire making your money honestly, man. I think it brings more joy to you. But when you look at people like Barra Jagdeo, he has no conscience. You heard what Barra Jagdeo said during that press conference. We're going to be looking at your GWI bills. We're going to be looking at your GPL bill to make sure that the $200,000 is going to the right people. Let me tell you something, Barra Jagdeo. Every moving thing in Guyana deserves, every moving living mechanism in Guyana deserves $200,000. The way you've treated the people over the 23 years, plus these last 4 years. Why are you worrying about who is getting it and who you don't want to get it? Why are you worrying about that? I told you guys before on program, this man finds happiness in watching people struggle. He finds joy. I think I said this last week. Have he ever came out and talked about a vision for prosperity for the people of Guyana? Have he ever come out and showed love for the people of Guyana? Never. Never. It's time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time that a Barra Jagdeo takes his thumb off of Guyana. It is high time. Okay? It's time for us to start seeing government working as a collective towards the best interests of the country and its people. You know, when the PPP announced this $200,000 cash grant, it didn't excite me one bit. Not one bit. It did nothing. Because it's nothing. It's immaterial. It'll do a little bit for the Guyanese people because they are punishing. Am I happy that they're going to get $200,000 provided that they actually get it? Yes, I'm happy. Yes, I'm happy. But they deserve way more. They deserve way more. And we need to start putting the necessary mechanisms in place, passing the necessary legislation to make sure that Guyana is a properly operated country. We are a sovereign, independent nation. We do not need to have our politicians running to the USA amongst other countries to get their orders. That's not fair. That's not fair to the normal man on the ground. Because it's obvious that whatever orders they're receiving is not beneficial to the people in Guyana, because $200,000 is not beneficial to the people in Guyana. It's not going to do much. And then I heard this guy, he works somewhere in the city council, Georgetown City Council, saying that this $200,000 will do a great deal to counter inflation. Excuse me. Excuse me. This $200,000 is going to have little to no effect on our economy. Little to no effect on our economy. Because it's not enough. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a one-off. Now, if they had come across and say, hey, you're going to get a $200,000 at the end of this year, and then at some point in March, April, you're going to get another 200,000, and then you're going to get another 200,000 towards the end of next year, you know, and we're going to do it going forward as much as we need to, then we're talking something. We're talking something. But a one-time $200,000 is for you to vote PPP. Think about it. Aggregate what you get for the cash grant, the little that you get for school, for the children. Aggregate all those grants, and some people are still walking around with pink slips because they've got nothing. And whenever the PPPC walks into a yard and they see there's an upstairs and a downstairs, and there's Afro-Guyanese upstairs and Afro-Guyanese downstairs, they call it one family. They say, who's going to take this $200, upstairs or downstairs? No, it's two different households. And then you know what they do? They say, oh, at lot 16 Prince William Street, we gave out $400,000. Which in it was not so. They gave out $200,000 to either upstairs or downstairs, and the other $200,000 went to pocket. That's why it is so important, so essential for every Guyanese to have electronic banking. Because how do you track this? How do you track the lawlessness of cars driving around with millions of dollars on the guard by the Guyana Police Force? Right? Doesn't make too much sense, right? When you can have a track record, you can have statistics that shows where the direct deposits went, where the monies went, whose direct deposit wasn't accepted because they didn't give proper bank information, and all these types of things. We need to start getting more computerizing Guyana. GPL need to start being more efficient so that we can create proper cold storage in Guyana for medications, for servers, for all these things. Again, I would say the Guyanese people have not agreed for their information to be put on a computer, sent up into space to a cloud, and then over to China. They have not agreed to that. Their information needs to stay within the borders of Guyana, within the boundaries of Guyana. And as a government, both sides of government, it is your job to make sure that such a thing is done. And when I say both sides of government, I feel like if I'm being a bit unfair to the opposition, because the opposition had always wanted to engage. And what I'm seeing with the PPPC is like they have a problem. They have a problem engaging the opposition because what? Number one, the person that you have sitting in the seat, sitting in the office of president, is unlearned, is not qualified for that seat. So the problem starts right there. And then it trickles down to this vice president who believes he have more powers than the Almighty and calls himself an economist. Well, people can call themselves whatever they want to call themselves. Maybe he's a Russian economist. That's where he get his honorary doctorate from, somewhere in Russia. So he's a real butcher of an economist. Because the Guyanese people have gained nothing. And all he had to show for 23 years is a stadium. I see Priya Manichan. I'm not going to call you honorable. You do a horrible job as the Minister of Education in Guyana. You're just atrocious as the Minister of Education in Guyana. School at Bamia still incomplete. Horrible. Schools weren't ready for children going out back to school. Okay? You are horrible. You call the stadium Jack Dio Stadium. Well, if that's going to be the name of the stadium, there's one stadium I wouldn't go to. I wouldn't go to that stadium. I'm sorry. I would not go to that stadium. Staying on top of you, Miss Priya Manichan. You and Charles Ramson Jr. It would have been brought to my attention that you guys are trying to eliminate the yearly school track and field championships that they usually have. I'm going to tell you guys this. Refrain from doing so. Refrain from doing so. You know why? It looks very, very, very racist. Don't do it. African Guyanese, they excel at track and field. They excel. And you know what this look like? It look like if you're trying to take away yet something else from them. Refrain. We're an oil-producing nation. We can afford for every school in Guyana to have inter-house, inter-school, inter-branch, and internationals. We can afford it. Create the fiscal space in your budgets. Budget for that. Give incentives to those young people that are competing. How do you guys expect us to identify our athletes in Guyana if you don't have the school track and field championship? That's where you start to identify your athletes and see who, you know, with more training can be an Olympian or whatever the case may be. You guys are trying to eliminate that. What do you want these young people to do? Sit down at home and wait until you guys call a Vybz Kartel show? Or you guys say, oh, they're CPL? Come on. You guys continuously failing the young people in Guyana. All right? There's a saying, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, makes Jill a dull girl. The school track and field championships need to always be there. We didn't have oil. The coalition never talked about eliminating it. Under Hoyt, we were still having school track and field championships, and definitely under Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. He wouldn't stand for that. He would never deprive Guyanese athletes. You guys wouldn't try to take away cricket, right? You wouldn't touch cricket. Right? You wouldn't touch cricket. You're trying to build Guyana into an Indo state. It cannot happen. Don't do it. It cannot and it will not happen. The Guyanese of African descent is going to stand up. Because if we want to take a pecking order when it comes to Guyana, the first choice would be the Guyanese Amerindian. And the next choice would be the Guyanese of African descent. Because they would have inhibited Guyana in that order. Stop it. Stop the rhetoric. It's embarrassing to see guys like Ravi Dev. They live in the past. They don't live in the 21st century. Take your narrative and flush it down the toilet. It's irrelevant now. We have to move this country forward. In order for this country to move forward, we have to have proper government in place. People who are there to govern on behalf of the people of Guyana. We need to have a coalition government where everybody's sitting at the table and making decisions as one unit. You know how efficient, how much more efficient Guyana would be run if we were making decisions together. But when you have greedy individuals, when greed is the number one thing on the plate of these politicians, they go out externally, they make deal with investors, they give away thousands of acres to large-scale investors coming into the country. And the normal born and bred Guyanese is made to get up early in the morning and go at housing and stand up. And let me tell you something, when housing see that you poor, they tell you plain, don't come in unless you got $500,000 or $1 million. Where are these Guyanese finding that from? That's why I love the proposal of the coalition, Aubrey Norton's team, and his housing proposal. It is good. It is good for the poor man. The poor man is there. We can't forget about him. The pensioners are there. We can't forget about them. I didn't hear any announcement that pensions would be $70,000 or pension would be $80,000 a month. 36,000, 33,000. Oh my God. Can't even pay for a proper one-bedroom place in Guyana. We cannot assume that all our pensioners own a property. We got to stop assuming. We need to also better provide proper health care for these pensioners. And from a holistic perspective, proper health care for Guyanese on the whole. These are issues that we need to address. And I'm just here to remind my brothers and sisters on the ground in Guyana. Don't worry this $200,000 thing. Don't worry this 50% discount at GPL. They should have been given a long time ago. And Free University, come on, they defy our constitution when they took that away. They ignore our constitution. They violated our constitution when they took that away. And they violated it for all these years. Looking at program time, I want to touch on one more thing. Well, maybe I'll get in two more. Clifton Haken, the acting commissioner of police, quote unquote. Irfaan Ali didn't confirm him. You got sense. You got sense. Because how would it look? How would it look, Irfaan Ali? I'm not going to call you doctor. I'm not going to call you president. You got to earn it, man. You got to earn it. You see, even if your degrees and all that is fake, you would have gotten some measure of respect from me if you was treating my brothers and sisters in Guyana right. Look, man, when you mess with them, you mess with me. You're not going to get any respect from me. Irfaan Ali, you show some good sense. You show some good sense. Because we have been campaigning for more than 2 years, probably 3 years, for the Chancellor of the Judiciary, the Honorable Yannette Cummins Edwards, and the Chief Justice, Madam Roxanne George Wilshire, to be confirmed. And you have denied them both. You have denied them both. How hypocritical you think it would look for you to go and confirm Hicken? How you think that would look? And you don't need any approval from Mr. Norton. Mr. Norton have already said 1,000,000 times he approves of Yarnett Cummings Edwards and Roxanne George Wilshire being appointed permanently and not sitting there in an acting role. But Irfan Ali, you and the PPPC, y'all are wicked. Y'all are vindictive. And Hicken is your buddy. You hang out with Hicken. He does all your bidding. Anything that you want done, Hicken is there to say, yes, yes, master, no, master. Well, here, the Guyanese people don't want Hicken. Okay? And Hicken does not deserve a retirement salary of a commissioner of police. If you want to do that, then we got to go retroactive and you got to conform Paul Slow. Because comparing Hicken and Paul Slow, oh my goodness. Is Paul Slow here and Hicken down on the floor here? All right? We can't do that. So how you want to conform Hicken as police commissioner? No, no, not allowed. Even Mr. Conway, who be on the show with Mr. Slow, you making Hicken commissioner of police? No, man, can't do that. Can't do that. When we have such better people in place that you all overlook, we're not standing for that anymore. We're not tolerating that nonsense anymore. We're just not doing it. So, Hicken, you go after your retirement with that acting police role. And listen, let me be frank. If ever the coalition wins, or when the coalition win that 2025 election, they decide to sign off on those two legislations that I would have talked about, that I would like to see signed off on and made into law. Hicken, prepare y'all paperwork because y'all got answer for all those assets that y'all got. All of you guys high level, y'all got to answer for those assets. I've never seen police officers that rich or get that rich so fast. There's no way that you guys get that with your base salary. Nowhere. Nowhere. One more thing I want to touch on. There's a massive loophole in our constitution and our politics when it comes to these politicians, these parliamentarians being in parliament and operating day-to-day businesses outside of parliament. It's a conflict of interest. It should not be allowed. Legislation should be put in place to stop that. You're going to either have some kind of entity, some kind of holding company or something, or some family member or somebody operate that business. And you will also be asked to sign documentation indicating that you will be independent in both fact and appearance when it comes to being hands-on with that business until you would have exited parliament and is no longer a parliamentarian. You can go back to operating your business because you're no longer in parliament. Therefore, there would not be a conflict of interest. My brothers and sisters on the ground in Guyana, you guys need to start calling for better and higher standards. Stop accepting lukewarm standards from your politicians. Start holding them accountable. Okay? Start holding them accountable. Well, my brothers and sisters, tonight, I'm going to need you guys. I'm going to need you guys' assistance on the program, because I would have just gotten an email here from the CEO that says that he would like the program to go until 8:39. So you guys have a lot of time for yourself here. You guys have a lot of time with me, and we can go over as much as we want to go over this evening. Right? Many of you said you want more. You want more of the program. So I'm gonna go through the comments and see if there's anything else that you guys want to talk about here. Oh my God, you guys proper kill the comments. There's a lot of comments, man. It's a lot of comments.
Yeah, my name is Jasmine Caldata Francis Wakenham, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my ex next to the cop. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
There and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su? My relationship?
Welcome back. Welcome back. I was just looking at that little short clip there just now. Who's Su? Barry Jagdeo should be behind bars right now. I'm telling you guys. I'm telling you. He wasn't ready for that. He could not believe that that lady had such information on him. You know, that is supposed to be top secret information. You could see that his underwear wasn't clean after that question. You can look and you could have seen that Barry Jagdeo underwear wasn't clean after that question. He was shocked. And right there and then, the Guyana police force should have moved in. He should have been investigated, but nothing was done. That's why the high-level officials in the Guyana police force can do exactly what they want to do, because they got him exactly where they want him. But what? The solution for this is for the Guyanese people to come out in their numbers come 2025, whenever elections is called. By the way, I gotta give all you guys credit for your fighting. I got to give credit to Kidaki Amsterdam, Mark Benchcop, Dr. David Hines, Norman Brown, Rickford Burke, Melissa Atwell, and I could go on and on, Otto Martin, all these people, all these, Sherrod Duncan, oh, how dare me forget Sherrod Duncan, how dare me, yes, Sherrod Duncan, oh, Gordon Mosley, all these guys, all these media guys, Glenn Lal, cannot forget Mr. Glenn Lal. Mr. Glenn Lal, good evening to you, sir. Yeah, cannot forget them. Kept the PPPC on the back foot, because through the grapevines, I heard that they were planning to call elections this month here, October. But you see, we have them on the back foot and we are bowling that good length. You understand me? They can't do anything. They can't do anything with us. You hear what Barry Jagdeo said? He told us the PPP supporters, Go out there into the social media realm and attack them. Attack them. My answer to that was send them. We're going to teach them English here, and we're going to keep them. They're not going to be returned to you. We are going to keep them. Because I've went on program and I've watched some of those people's comments. And it is so arrogant in nature. I feel sorry. I feel sad. You know, I feel sad. Because they come across so unlearned. Right? And I'm not mad with them. You know, it's what they would have been given under the bottom house. That racist rhetoric that we would have seen demonstrated by that young Imran. When I saw what that young man said, I was more sad than upset. I was more sad than upset. And the ERC failed. They failed to even reach out to him. They failed. You know, and it's the same thing this guy did with the attack on Melissa Atwell. That was horrible. It was just horrible listening to him. It was just despicable. And what the ERC did? Nothing. Because the ERC is on the Barra Jagdeo's thumb. They're on the Barra Jagdeo's thumb. Look, I'm going to ask everybody here tonight. We have 3 main parties in the opposition. And those parties have 3 leaders. Let's rally for our leaders. Let's rally behind them. Let's respect them. Okay? Let's respect them. They haven't gotten an opportunity to lead Guyana yet. Okay? So they don't come with that baggage in their closet that the PPP is going to come with in 2025. All right? They don't come with that. They don't come with when Venezuela is encroaching on Essequibo. You understand me? We book a flight and we fly to Panama, and then we pick a flight from Panama straight to Dubai. It just shows you that if Venezuela try to attack Guyana or try anything on Guyana, what happens? Those guys get out of there quick. Well, the saying is that any proper captain, the captain is supposed to go down with the ship, right? Come on, Guyanese. Here's another example. Vet your captains that you have now. I ask you to do so. Vet the captains that you have now of the ship. Vet them. Vet them and see what you have. So we need proper politicians. Okay? We don't need business people. We need politicians. Because right now, the Constitution needs some restructuring, right? Some of the language, can be more clear and more definitive, right? And we need to also add some more policy to that Constitution that we already have, because it gives a lot of gray areas for politicians to play in, right? And we can't afford that. We have a country right now that has less than 1 million people. And we cannot successfully, consistently govern the country properly. That means that there's work to do. We are lacking. We have to develop our policies right in Guyana. You can't fly out to the United States for people to tell you how to govern your country. Those people are not on the ground in Guyana. Those people don't understand the people in Guyana on the ground like you. The normal representatives that they would have went to elections and elected understand them. We don't need to run to Washington. We don't need to put forms to lobby for us and all kind of stuff. When you see the PPP did all that stuff, it was mainly based on oil and riches. They weren't lobbying to be able to stay in power to serve the people of Guyana. They were lobbying to be able to stay in power to serve the interests of their investors and the interests of their bank accounts and pockets. That is what they were lobbying for. You remember Anil Nandlall in New York, what he said? He said we need a vibrant opposition. And what did the PPPC went ahead and do? They went ahead and cut the allocation to the opposition. So you want a vibrant opposition if you're cutting the allocations, you're cutting the finances that should be going to the opposition. It just shows you how miserable the PPP really is. And some of you ministers, members of parliament in the PPPC, you guys know better. You guys know better. This regime is not going to stand up past 2025. It is not. I am of the strong feeling that the Guyanese people will not allow it. They know what is at stake. Every single election is important. But this one, remember, all the other elections that we would have had would not have happened while we would have started extracting oil. This is the first one that oil is going to be an issue. Or this one is going to be on the basis of oil. We're going to talk about oil at this election. Okay? We're going to be talking about 5 years of extraction at this coming election and what it would have accomplished to the people of Guyana. When you have over 50% living in poverty, when you have most of our young people, 68% of them, dealing with some measure of child poverty or youth poverty. Utter lawlessness. We shouldn't have that. When you go into the indigenous areas, the Region 9s, and you see the people are still using the toilet pit. All right. Even if you have 2 or 3 toilet pits, you should have a more modern toilet. Just in case that one break down, okay, you have those 3 outhouses as emergency. Oh my goodness, but if you're going to have that, oh, for goodness sake, build them properly. Spend some money. Let them look good. Build them out right. Put locks on them. Paint them. You know? And for crying out loud, fence all your schools. It looks like your school is something of a pastime in Guyana. We got to get serious. We got to start encouraging and empowering our young people. Not the PPP pick out couple young DJs and the young DJs come and think, yeah, we making money for we friends. And no. We got better standards than that. Don't throw that nonsense at us. We got better standards than that. You know? Ain't no young DJ could come and tell young people in Guyana how to live and how to be successful if that person is not thinking straight. It's not about just making money. It's a matter of where that money is coming from. And it's a matter of if that money is hurting others. Right? It's not a matter of dealing with a government as a young DJ. It's a matter of the character of the government that you're dealing with as a young DJ. If you have any measure of integrity. Right? So young Guyanese, sometimes, man, you can't look at these people. You got to look at yourself. You know, you got to look at yourself. You got to look at your parents. Right? Even if you hit social media, look for people who have your best interests at heart and not their own. I was sad, guys. I don't know about you guys. I was sad when I saw Irfan Ali came out of the Arthur Chung Convention Center, and he was hugging and flashing pictures with those young children. I would not have wanted to be one of them, to be honest with you. I'm flashing pictures with someone that would have been so dishonest about his educational portfolio, his education portfolio. I couldn't do that. Right? I could not do that. Collectively, we can do this. As one, we can do this. You know, this week I heard Dr. Hines, Dr. David Hines, would have called out and spoken up on the topic of a coalition and the formation of a coalition and who is in and who is out. Dr. Hines is, you know, and I've spoken to Dr. Hines personally many times. And he's a no-nonsense guy. He doesn't play around. If something needs to be done, let's get moving on it. People's lives matter. All the stakeholders in the coalition, you need to start getting yourself ready to come to the table. It's not going to be any delays. Okay? And I want to make one thing very, very clear. If there's any party in the coalition that is thinking, even thinking in the back of their brain to vote with the PPPC, you are unloving. You don't care for the people of Guyana. Any party that is willing to hold hands with the PPPC, because if you're holding hands with the PPPC, you're holding hands with Barra Jagdeo, who I feel is by far the worst leader to have ever placed his hands on our great country, the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. It should never be done. We need a proper coalition. I'm not saying down the road that you would need a faction of the PPPC to be a part of that coalition. I'm not saying that. All needs to be represented. But Barra Jagdeo must not be one of those representatives. He must not be. Right? He must not be. Because there's a lot that would have happened under Barra Jagdeo and the PPPC reign. Right? We don't forget, brothers and sisters. We don't forget. We haven't forgotten our brother Courtney Cromwell. You see, when you want to come out in Parliament and you want to talk about this cash grant and that cash grant, you just open me up to go in other places. We haven't forgotten about Courtney Cromwell. We haven't forgotten about brother Trevor Rose. We have not forgotten about Paper Shorts, Ricardo Fagundes. We have not forgotten Donald Allison. We have not forgotten Isaiah Henry. We have not forgotten Joel Henry. We have not forgotten Peter Headley. We have not forgotten Shaka Blair. or in Boston, and young Harish Singh. No, I asked the PPP supporters or anybody from the PPPC to present such a list to me that shows that that similar atrocities was committed under the coalition. Not one. You can't even give me one name. Okay? You cannot even give me one name. And Irfan Ali, you talking about conforming Clifton Hicken? None of these cases are properly solved. Oh my goodness. How can I forget young Quindon Bacchus? How can I forget young Quindon Bacchus who was shot down in Aslington as if they were shooting down the world's largest elephant in a hail of bullets? Irfan Ali, did you ever make an appearance in Golden Grove to the Bacchus's home to speak to that family? You talk about you have the best interests of women and children. Guyanese, this evening, I'm giving you a lesson of who some of you are still attempting to re-elect. I'm giving you a breakdown. He hasn't showed up there. Oh, yes, but when the protest was big and it knocked down a star with cassava ball and Pelori and Dalpuri and whatever else. Oh, that vendor got $1 million. Here, $1 million. They had no right doing it. Have the Bacchus family been compensated for the loss of that child? You guys got some nerve, you know. You guys got some nerve. But nothing ain't going down easy anymore. No, I'm not letting you guys off the hook with anything. You guys are despicable. You guys are despicable. I had my own research done. I had my own checking done at the Tomeri / Cheddi Jagan International Airport. I had my own check done. You guys are so disingenuous. You're such troublemakers. Under the coalition, were any of you guys or any of your supporters' name up at the airport? You want to talk about fairness? Let's talk about fairness. Because you can't want to do wrong and it mustn't be called out. When people call out your wrongs, you take their name and you lodge it at the airport to be harassed. We are not going to tolerate it. We are not going to tolerate it. Barry Jagdeo, who are you? Who are you on the PPP to stop Guyanese from coming home to their country? Who are you? You guys are public servants. Who are you to latch people's names at the airport? No, let's say if and when the coalition win in 2025, we decide to lodge names at the airport. We decide to go after that guy that spoke on our sister, Melissa Atwell, how we speak to her. If we decide to go after people like that, what are you guys going to say? Think about it. We have lawyers in Guyana. Roysdale Ford, Nigel Hughes, all of you guys in the opposition who are attorneys. You guys need to handle that. You guys need to make sure that there's nobody's name that represents the opposition up at the airport. That is your responsibility. Because there's many times when the PPPC would have come out and say things that the opposition was not there for rebuttal. It's these same social media talk show hosts, Mark Benchcop, Norman Brown, and the whole list of them that comes out and do the rebuttals. So one hand has to wash the other. You cannot, as the opposition, sit down on the ground, be on the ground in Guyana, and allow this to happen to people that supports you. You guys need to get forthwith and have the names of those individuals removed. The way the PPPC acts, you know, they act like a terrorist, like a killers, like a killing organization. Look how much executions. Now look at this young man that was kidnapped. What the heck? A young man kidnapped in bright daylight. The cameras are right there showing everybody. And he just disappears. Nobody cannot tell me that's not by design. That is by design. That's why there is that a lot of people who come out and say that the PPPC is a terrorist syndicate. Because these things only happens under the PPP. The statistics shows that. On the Comrade Granger, the guy in the police force and those officers, they had to show a measure of discipline, a high degree of discipline. Because at the hem in Guyana, you had a disciplinarian. You didn't have a bona fide politician, but you had a good man, a man of standards, a man of discipline. I mean, those are just two of the qualities that I would be looking for from the next leader of Guyana. And I ask that leader be independent in both fact and appearance. There should not be no encroachment by any large-scale investor to dictate the terms in Guyana. Every investor should be treated as an investor. When you come into Guyana to do business, understand that we have standards. Okay? It gotta be this time, not a long time. When you could come in and you could go into whomever you want, or whether it's like how it's done with Sue and how all that stuff allegedly. Sue said, "Don't worry, just come to me. I will get you to the vice president. And he will approve whatever needs to be approved." Excuse me? We don't have an agency to handle new investors? Yes, we do. There should not be no direct government interference. That's why we lack in standards. That's why I spoke about those legislations early. Would like to see them put in place. Because you know what? Corruption, it starts at the top, and guess what? It ends at the top. It's not something that goes top to bottom. It starts at the top, it ends at the top. It starts with the government officials in Guyana, down to the high level in the police force, and back up to the government officials in Guyana. It doesn't go beneath that. If the trend continues the way it is, you know what's going to be one of the best jobs to get in Guyana? A job with the Guyana police force. Especially if you're looking to do evil and wicked things. If a government like the PPPC stay in power, the best job to have, when you look at it from a financial perspective, would be a job working in the Guyana police force. If that person developed the guts to do evil to other people, it would be the best job. They'll be so useful. All right? I think Mark Benchcop would have spoke early on a show this week where he was talking about all these different police officers and about how many of them meet their demise. That trend would come back again. For a matter of fact, it's already back. But brothers and sisters, we want to get back to that place. We want to get back to that place in Guyana where you go out, people go out, they party, they enjoy themselves, they work hard. When the weekend come, they're safe. They go out, they party, and we go back home happily. And the next week, we're talking about how nice the party was. Not the next week. We're talking about the funeral that we have to go to because the party got shoot up and 2 or 3 people died. Like what is be happening now? You can't go and sit down nowhere. People driving in cars just looking to shoot up other people. That does only happen under the PPP. It does only happen under the PPP. So Guyanese understand, when you go there and you vote and you don't vet who you're voting for, you're voting for another 5 years of corruption, okay, murder, and racketeering. These guys ain't leaving no stone unturned. You see the cocaine and the weed still moving, right? Like they just say it, money got for make. Money got for make. That's all they just say. We got for eat. My question is, at what cost? At what cost? We got to get back to loving and caring for each other. I think there's a good place to start. Guyanese of Indian descent, you got to understand that you have spent decades living in Guyana with your brothers and sisters of African descent. You need to start trusting them. You need to start trusting them. You need to start understanding the issues. And you need to start trusting them. They don't fail you. They are some of the biggest consumers in the world. And when you bring your produce to market, they just buy it, right? One hand got to wash the other. It can't be a one-way street. It cannot be a one-way street. You see, what happened is that many know that they're doing wrong. They know that they're doing wrong, and they are petrified that if there is a new government in Guyana and that government is predominantly Guyanese of African descent, they're going to take revenge on them. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it does work. Right? Under the David Granger coalition, nobody take revenge on nobody. Nobody named didn't appear up at the airport. Even a PPP supporter came out and said she would execute David Granger. And what he said, leave her alone. You think a coalition supporter could jump out there and say that he is going to assassinate Barry Jagdeo? Oh, you dare not. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're mentally unstable, you going to jail for the rest of your life. Okay? You going to jail. I have requested that people from the PPPC site send me documentation to show me where it is that the David Granger led coalition would have vilified them. I've got nothing. You know why? because there is nothing. There is absolutely nothing. That coalition over the last 20 years or so was the best thing for that period of time that had ever happened to Guyana, because we was off of many of the high-level corruption lists. That coalition worked to get us off of those lists. The big shipment of drugs was not going out the way they were going out before. Why? The coalition locked down all of that. But here's where Guyanese come out to be a little bit unlearned. That's why I want us to make sure that we're in touch and we are always on these programs. A lot of people were complaining about cash flow through the Guyana economy. Well, that cash flow wasn't cash flow, was cocaine flow, was marijuana flow. This is what you call that. It wasn't a naturally operated economy. Okay, where we're doing our gold, we're doing our bauxite, whatever tourism we have, and these type of things. And the money coming in from the taxpayers, amongst other things. It wasn't that. Bridges and tolls and those, it wasn't that. It was well propped up by the cocaine dealings. You see, and having an economy like that is never sustainable. Right? Because when the US and those high-level watchdog countries start zoning in on you, and they come in and they shut you down, you're going to really experience some real cash flow issues. That's why the coalition was trying to establish a nice, real economy that they could have worked their way through 2015 into 2020 for that oil boom. And then they would have just merged the oil revenue into that, and it would have been a well-oiled machine. The PPP don't have no records to show that the coalition was stealing anything. They ain't got no records to show that. And the leaders of the coalition, they need to stop this thing where they are unwilling to see people on the other side go down. No. This is not about you and your friends on the other side. This is about the people of Guyana. Let's stay focused here. This is about the people of Guyana that you work for. This is about the people of Guyana who I, Wayne Caesar, believe would have been cheated over the last 30 plus years or so. Yes, cheated immensely. So we need to start getting to the point where we're understanding that is the people first and everything else after. All of you guys could still be millionaires. All of you can still be millionaires. But it wouldn't be that you go into government and flash a light, come on. Corruption, you're a millionaire right away. It wouldn't be that. You have to work your way to that achievement like every other Guyanese would have to. What makes you special? Because you were elected to an office of leadership? It doesn't make you special. People will give you that respect by respecting your office. But then you also have the task of respecting the Guyanese people and getting their work done. You have to. That's the only way we move this thing forward. And we stop the internal ducking and throwing stones at each other. You're in prime position right now. The PPP failed to call any elections this year. So you guys should be already zoned in on next year. And like Dr. Hines said, a coalition need to start coming together. At least the high-level discussion needs to start happening. People can't be dodging and doing all this nonsense. Listen, it shows a level of selfishness, and how you believe the other two that you're operating with is going to trust you if you're always dodging and running, whomever that be. I've said it before on programs that power is a very funny thing. It's a very, very, very funny thing. You can do a lot of things with power. But I would advise you to use it towards good. Use it for the good. Use it for the good of the Guyanese people. Use it for the good of Guyana. And one of the things going forward, to the extent we have a new government in 2025, they've got to establish a strong position that when it comes to decisions to be made with regards to Guyana, we are going to make our decisions on our soil. Yes, if anybody have advice for us, we are open to advice. But it must ultimately come down to our decision as Guyanese. There's nobody else who just come and say, oh, you guys are in poverty. There's no jobs for your people. We're going to give Guyanese a 6-month visa to come and work in our country so they could make something and they could go back home or whatever the case is. Nobody does that. That is your responsibility as government to make sure that all Guyanese are working. So therefore, you don't need to be listening to anybody else. You need to be focusing on the ground how you can create jobs. You need to be making deals with investors that, hey, if you're going to come on board and you're going to open up business in Guyana, this is the percentage of Guyanese we want you to hire. And at the same time, you're training and preparing your people for those jobs, because you can't force somebody to hire unskilled people. And Guyana has that issue now, thanks to the PPPC locking down university for maybe 3 decades or so, or more than that. We have to do better across the board. It can't be business as usual, a new government go in place, and it's the same thing that's happening. No. Those legislations that I spoke of earlier, they need to be signed. That's the only way that I personally would believe that any government or any leader is willing to be honest. Because talk is cheap. People talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. When you go into their background, you find that, oh, this person got this business here, that business here, this amount of money missing, that amount of money missing. Next thing you know, there's arguments against the whomever is in government and the opposition, and that's all that's going on. While that's going on, there's nobody piggybacking and looking to see how much oil is being extracted per day. Nobody's looking at that. So we getting ripped off. We getting set up again. Just like in the colonial times. It's a repeat. Some of these things is a repeat. It's not things that we've seen for the first time. Yeah, I may not have been alive, but I can say, yes, studies have showed me this. It's the same thing. Are you telling me that we don't learn? Are you telling me that we have a learning disability? Well, I don't want to believe that. Because nobody has a learning disability when it comes to money. So we can't have a learning disability. We got to get out of the habit where we're making deals that few benefit from, and the rest of the nation continues to live in poverty. The posture for the Guyanese people need to change. The posture of the Guyanese people need to change. Poverty needs to be eradicated. It needs to be something of the past. We are now an oil-producing nation, one of the largest oil-producing nation, and also, besides that, we are quote-unquote supposed to be the fastest growing economy in the world. So I beg to ask the question, where is the prosperity that would have aligned with what I've just said? There is no prosperity. And that's where I have a massive problem with the PPPC. Because over the last 4 years, they quote unquote say that they went on an infrastructure blitz. Where you're seeing all these highways and everything, but still you're seeing big signs. No large trucks. Why? Because they weren't built durable. If it costs 400 million to build a highway, they're probably paying 250 million and the rest gone to pocket. So you have substandard work. The quality of the highway is not there. And then you tell these drivers of the large trucks they can't go on there. Why? They deserve a right to have their business too. Build durable roads. This falls on government. It has nothing to do with the truck operators. Nothing to do with them. Again, another failure by the government. Look at the Linden Highway. Built since when? I think it's 1968. I'm not sure. I think it's 1968. It's still there. Those trucks have been traversing that highway for decades. Yes, it got its little holes and but that's decades. You just building all these highways and you're banning the trucks from going on them. PPP, you need to understand this. Infrastructure is something that is built out over years. Okay? You don't build a city in 5 years. Okay? There is something called a balanced budget. You guys know what I mean? Balance. Let your budget have some balance where you are addressing, infrastructure, yes, but human capital. You've missed the boat on that. And $200,000 does not suffice. It does not suffice. Okay? The Guyanese people, because they're in poverty, I would say to them, without a doubt, accept it. It's not the PPPC money. It's your money. You're just getting a little cut from your money. It's yours. And to the PPPC, I'm going to say this. I'm making a pitch for every young working adult within that household, where the head of the household is getting $200,000, for you to at least give them anywhere between $50,000 and $100,000. I would prefer to see them get either $75,000 or $100,000, just for the fact that they're working. Give young people some measure of incentive. You have taken away so much from them over the last 3 to 4 decades. Free university, amongst other things. Give them something to show some measure of care. That doesn't save you though as a government. You have to go come 2025. Again, Guyanese, for Guyana to move forward, for Guyanese to live happily and safely, okay? The taxpayers of Guyana to live happily and safely. Remember, taxpayers cannot even enjoy their life. They go to a bar, the bar getting shoot up. They go out anyway, something violent is happening. The only people who have a safe haven in Guyana is the rich politicians and the criminals that they support. Okay, the rich politicians, the high-level police officers, and the criminals that they support. Those are the people who have a good, enjoyable life going for them in Guyana right now. Not the normal born and bred, tax-paying Guyanese. And that is the narrative that we need to change. Okay? And that narrative can only change if we put certain laws in place. All right? I want to thank you all, everyone, for joining tonight. We had a good day. That was a 2-hour discourse, man. We just did it tonight. Okay? That was a whole 2-hour discussion. I see Marlene Thomas. Please address the issue of housing. Yeah, we know that there's a lot of Guyanese out there who needs housing. And that's one of the reasons that I would have called, for, in my estimation, I think that every Guyanese adult should be able to get $500,000. All right. It may infringe on infrastructure for 1 year. So what? You're taking care of your human capital. The Guyanese people have been living with this same infrastructure for so many years. So what if you take a year off and just handle the new Demerara Bridge and a few other projects, the Bamio projects, and those are the important projects, and leave everything else to the side and just focus on your people? Open up housing, hire more people at housing so we can get more applications processed, clear more lands. Don't go and throw the people who are squatting, who would have already cleared the land. Don't go and throw them off because you want to take that land to build housing schemes. All right? Okay, guys. All right. Thank you, Mr. Thomas, for that. All right. Again, brothers and sisters, it was a pleasure sitting here this afternoon and discussing important matters that are pertinent to the development of our country, the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, that we all love. I encourage each and every one of you to enjoy the rest of your weekend. At the same time, be very careful. No drinking, no driving. You drink, no driving. You call Uber, you call whatever. If you're in the United States, you in Guyana, you find a taxi. Okay? Or have somebody who didn't drink drive you home. Okay? As you go along the highways and byways, don't drive for yourself. Drive for yourself, pedestrians, and other motorists. All right? Until next week, I say goodbye to you, and I love you all. Over to you. Thank you very much.
I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Imagine 18 hours of blackout and you're telling people progress. Cost of living gone up 100%, yet you give public servant less. Mr. President, listen to the people. Search your soul and you will confess. I want you try surviving on the public face, then you're gonna know but stress. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. They don't drive no fair with the citizen. They may want the people speak out. Freedom of speech done gone inside the gutter. Knock off when you open your mouth. Discrimination in entertainment, and you're talking about one Guyana. When the Ministry of Culture keep the big shows, one set of girls and banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up.
There and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Zhurong?
Su? Oh, Su? My relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my place, yeah.